having our student representatives introduce themselves at first meeting. Congratulations. So happy to have you guys.
Welcome.
You'll add some spunk to it, be fun, be open.
Welcome, boys and girls. I'll just say first that we're very, very proud of you. We know that you've been selected to represent the views of the students, and it's a very important seat that you have. And I hope that you, like other students before you, take advantage of it and use it to really have the voice of the students heard. And I welcome you, and on behalf of our school leadership team, we welcome you. And just, let you know, the things we do and the things we talk about are real and important and have an impact on the lives of our students and their families. So it's a really great place to be. And again, we welcome you. So yeah, why don't you just say hi and tell us your name and class maybe, and we'll go on from there. Kelvin, you want to start?
Sure. My name is Kelvin Zhang, and I'm from class, well, originally I'm from 805, but it's 8D4 now. And yeah.
Cool. Great. Thanks, Kelvin. And who's our next student?
How about Marie?
I'm Marie, and I was supposed to be in 802 this year, but I'm in 8A1, so yeah.
Okay.
Great. Every kid has to end with yeah. It's like a kid thing. Leandra, let's see if you can break that streak.
No, I'm gonna. I'm Leandra. I was supposed to be in class 811, but I'm in class 8D6 now.
Very good, Leandra. And why don't we just go around and introduce the rest of ourselves for our new students, so they all know who we are and what we're doing sitting here on this screen this afternoon. So you all know who I am. I'm the principal. And again, welcome everyone, and welcome boys and girls. It's going to be a great year. Please feel free, folks.
I'm Mr. File. I think you guys know me, right? I'm the dean.
Yeah, you're also our school leadership team coordinator today, yes. and some other days too. When no, kidding. Always.
Yes. I'm the chairman of the school leadership team.
Yes.
I had to get that coordinator title away, but make it more prestigious sounding. But yeah, you guys know who I am, and it's great to see you.
I'm Mina Siddiqui. I'm the assistant principal. I hope you know me, Kelvin.
I'm sure he misses you. It's popping in. And I'm Miss Wall. I teach 6th grade and 8th grade this year.
I'm Miss Mack. I'm a 6th grade math teacher.
I'm Miss Tung. I'm doing 6th and 7th self-contained this year and 8th ICT this year.
Great.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Vito, the PTA president.
I'm Ms. Amora, Spanish teacher.
Hi, I'm Mr. Hedman. I'm the NIA director.
I'm Madeline Lagori-Link. I'm mom to a 7th grader and vice president of the PTO.
Hi, I'm Sandra Song. I'm a parent representative on the SLT and an 8th grade parent.
Great. And I think we got everyone.
No,
we saw Steve.
Yeah, I'm Steve Chan. My daughter is Elizabeth Chan in 6th grade. It's a pleasure to meet all of you.
You're welcome.
I am Effie McLaughlin, and I am a parent of a former McAuliffe student who's now at Staten Island Tech and a current 8th grader who's also in 8D6. So welcome.
Great, thank you. And my apologies for skipping over you. And I do think there were 2 other, looks like someone else is coming in. And
Miss Hong, she just came in, I think. Did it go through?
Great.
Yes, it's me.
Yeah. Hi. We're just doing a quick introduction because we have 3 new student representatives joining us today.
Okay. Oh,
So
you
just a
can. You
quick
mean
intro.
introduce each
For-
self? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. We all just went.
Okay,
as you
this
were
is
coming in.
home. Yes, my kids is in 6th grade, and yeah.
Very good.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. So next on the agenda is reviewing last month's minutes.
Yes, I'm gonna quickly share my screen so you guys can see. I did email it to you guys this morning. So for some of you guys who were not here or just need a refresher from last month, because it's been a while, it's been a few weeks, and for our students, I also included you in the email when I sent this out. But it's basically what we talked about last month in December. We did go over the November minutes. We talked about, and you guys should know because I believe Miss McGar, Mr. File, Mr. Mazatowski have been visiting you guys in your classes. Did you guys get your visits already? Leandra, Marie, and Kelvin?
Yes.
Yeah, you guys all got your visits. Nice. So, they've been going around to talk to all the 8th graders, kind of checking in with them, making sure that they know that, we're all still here to support you guys in any way, answer questions. I know it's a little bit harder now because of remote learning. You can't just walk into Mr. File's office and say, what's up, and, can we have a talk or anything like that. It's a lot harder now, when it's remote. So we're, Miss McGar, Mr. Mazatowski, Mr. File want to just check in with all of you guys, 8th graders, to see how you guys are doing, answer any questions. I know especially about SHSAT and graduation, the high school process. And we just wanted to let you guys know that, we're here, we understand that it is a difficult time that we're all, going through right now. We do have a lot of fun activities being planned. So you 8th graders may not know since you were not in the SLT last year, but we did start the process of looking for a 4th assistant principal for our school because we do have the need for it. However, once the pandemic hit, last March, we kind of had to change our plans around, but we do still really need someone that to kind of fill this position or this role to help with the administration. So instead of an assistant principal, we have what we call an academy facilitator. I don't think you guys have had or had Mr. Passaro in arts and humanities. He probably, I think, left before you guys came to the school, but he was the academy facilitator for arts and humanities for many years. But now we're going to have Ms. Brianne Gasser fill that role, and we'll be working with students, and you may be already in contact with her, helping her with these activities and just, kind of making you feel connected to the school community, even in the remote world. Our Swerve website is still going strong. Mr. Savarese is working on that. He's also working on the 8th grade yearbook, which will look a little bit different this year, but it will still be a great yearbook for you guys with lots of memories. We did talk about school photos and how we can safely kind of do that, especially for the 8th grade seniors, to take your graduation photo. So once, I'm not sure if Mr. Berman have any updates, maybe today he can talk about it and see if, this Avenue P and Flatbush location will still work out for us as a school. Budget-wise, hopefully we made it to Title I. I know there were a few, we had about 120 families that still did not fill out the lunch forms last month. And we were just, we just needed about 1/3 of them to fill it out and qualify. And then we would have gotten the Title I status, which will bring in more money to our school budget for 2 years. On November 12th, DOE, took a snapshot of our student roster to see how many students we have in order to determine funding. We did have to put aside money for students that we lost on our roster. And also, but also we have money that we may be getting back from due to IEP modification and changes. That's about $30,000, but we're still in very good shape because there have been less teacher absences, so coverages didn't really have to take place. NIA updates. Mr. Kaplan has been working on the play, Do You Read Me? Hopefully they're working on editing it so that it can be streamed. Mr. Savary still working on the Swerve, and the Lynx Club, I believe, had their first interest meeting today, where general education students will get to be paired with students with disabilities, and they get to learn about the disability and really engage with each other during the school day and through different events. PTO updates. Place NYC had a workshop, and there was a CEC meeting on the 9th of last month. Graduation, we do want to plan something special for you 8th graders, but we are still waiting on guidelines because it's a very, different situation this year, very unique situation. So we have to see if, gatherings can happen in the spring, but also what, how else can we make it special for you guys, even if we kind of break it up, by class, by group, so it's a smaller group of students coming in at once. We like to do something in person if possible outside. And then we talked a lot about the 8th grade meeting and some of the questions or concerns that parents had. A lot revolved around the SHSAT, high school process, and just parents really engaging with the students, their child, and making sure that they kind of understand if their child is going through a lot of stress because of school, how they are kind of getting used to remote learning and their schedules, and how there's so many changes going on, and we just want to make sure that parents are being vigilant and engaged. And also students, I know you guys are getting senioritis a lot earlier this year. So hopefully you guys can still keep up the great work. We had the second part of our trauma training for teachers. And also there were talks about having students coming back for 5 days a week of in-person, whenever that may be, because right now we are still closed in the building. So, yeah, if there are any questions, please let me know.
Great job, Winnie.
Yes, thank you very much.
That was very thorough.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of stuff, didn't we?
Yeah, who knew?
Yeah.
Winnie knew.
Yes, she did. That was fantastic. That was great. We should do that every month. Next on the list.
Hold on, I'd like to welcome, I guess, 3 more people who have joined us. Mrs. Lochisano, hi. I see you've been able to join us. Thank you very much.
Hi.
Welcome. And we have our 3 new students with us, Kelvin and Leandra and Marie, of course. And also I'd like to welcome Mr. Mora. How are you? Good to see you. Welcome. And also Mrs. McDonald. And I think that really rounds out the team.
Yes, we have a full attendance today.
And we have to pronounce Leandra. I've been corrected on that quite a few times. So I know that was going through her mind as you said.
Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't want to say anything.
Leandra about 75 times until I figured that out.
Leandra, no E. Gotcha. All right. So what's next on our agenda, Mr. File?
Our new grading policy.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'll just sort of update you with what we've been doing and what we've been talking about. It's kind of more than just a new grading policy, and it isn't just one policy. Each department works together and they come up with what they feel is an appropriate breakdown of areas for the grades. So of course, when we talk about looking at homework and looking at the assignments that we're giving, it sort of necessitated making some changes in that. So for example, if we're reducing the amount of homework that we're giving, it makes a lot of sense not to have homework weighted so much on the students' report card grades. So those are some of the things that we'll be sending out to you as we finalize them. I know the department's finished meeting, I think last Friday, and we're compiling all of that information, and we'll share it with you. And it's nothing really earth-shattering, but I think it's a reasonable sort of adaptation to the kinds of work that we're doing, and really sort of focusing more on the in-school time and the work that's done in that place, in that time. So as I mentioned in, I guess, one of my last emails, you know, hopefully you've already started to see those changes. I'd love to get some feedback from the kids if you've seen any changes.
Kathleen is not able to get into the meeting. I just got an email. Winnie, do you have any idea?
She's here.
Oh,
She's
why
here,
did I just
Kathleen.
get this?
Yeah, I'm on now. I was able to get in. Mr. Berman sent me another link.
Oh,
So
I'm
thank
so
you.
sorry. Sorry, I just got it now.
Oh, no worries.
With it, Mr. File.
AOL is not the best. I don't recommend.
Berman,
Come on, Mr. File. AOL.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Berman, did you discuss at all kind of what led us to want to change the grading policy?
Yeah, well, I think very much of it was feedback from the students and families, and you know, listening to you boys and girls, and sort of what some of our observations were about how students were not just performing, but how they sort of seemed in class, and how sort of not as engaged as we had hoped students would be. And we just kind of felt like there was what it seemed was that there was a large amount of work, often, not always, but often, for a lot of students, work after school that was very similar to the kind of work that they were doing while they were in school. So it just sort of blended into one sort of long existence of remote instruction at school. And we kind of felt like, let's maybe sort of try and change that up a little bit. So that's really what sort of made us look really carefully at a lot of the assignments that were going out, and sort of, you know, seeing assignments due at particular times and things like that, and realizing that, you know, that's not the best way that we can approach things, and let's sort of change what we're doing.
So guys, do you feel that we've made some improvements in the last few weeks as far as the kids?
I've definitely noticed it, like the change in the amount of homework. Because like you said, Mr. Berman, before, it kind of just felt like the entire day was just one remote school day. And even on weekends, like they would have weird times to make the assignments due. Like it would be like at Sunday at 2 o'clock. Like,
I'm sorry about that.
It's really weird.
I do not approve of that at all. Never did, never will. So I apologize for that, but I'm sorry, Marie. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
I also like have a lot of extracurriculars outside of school. So like I'm pretty sure I have to leave this meeting a little bit earlier today because I do have piano class. And sometimes it's like due at weird times, and then I get worried if I'll be able to go to, you know, the extracurriculars and finish all the work at the same time. But I've definitely noticed that there's less homework now.
So has that made things better for you?
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that there's less homework, and I can definitely see a difference that like schools, like the school day ends at 2 o'clock, and then I have the homework that's separated from the school day, and I can do it whenever I have time to do it.
That's great.
Great.
Kelvin, did you want to add to that? I think you were asking.
Yeah, so about the irregular kind of due times, that's kind of been an issue for me as well because like sometimes like I'm doing an assignment, right? And then usually the assignments are usually due at like midnight. But like some teachers, I'm not gonna, say names, but a few teachers, they put it at like for example 6 p.m. and then I automatically default it to 12 to like midnight, and then it's like 5:45, and then I go check classroom because I do that, and then I notice there's a homework that's due on 6 p.m. So it's kind of annoying.
Hmm. Are you still seeing that, or have you seen a change?
I've I don't see it as often, I guess. Not as often as before.
But you're still seeing it to some extent.
Yes, I'm still seeing it.
Okay, so are you finding that, I mean, see, to me, there's a difference between having a due date or a due date or time, or no due date or time, or having something due at 2 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon. So are you finding that there are still unreasonable, like, for example, give me an example of like the last unreasonable due date and time you had? Was it like midnight, whatever, the day you got it, or what was that example that you gave again?
No, so basically, I said that usually my assignments are due at midnight, like
Right.
maybe the next day, and I'm totally fine with that.
Okay.
But because the majority of my teachers put the due date at that is because so like I automatically default it to that time, and then some teachers put a different due time, and then it's
I get
Sometime before midnight.
yeah, something like that.
Okay. No, but I mean, if it were a due date or time after midnight, that wouldn't matter, right? I understand. Okay. And Leandra, I hope I said that right that time.
It's Leandra.
Leandra.
But I was going to say that like I agree with Marie and Kelvin that the times sometimes when that our homework is due, it's a little weird. But I have noticed that the homework has gone down, but then in some of my classes with the homework going down, the classwork has become a little bit more. Like I know this week one of my teachers had assigned like 3 projects just for us to do that. They're giving us all the classwork for it, but they're not giving us any homework, so they feel like it's enough time for us to do it.
So you're doing it are you doing it, or are you expected to do it during class time, or after
Yeah,
school?
we're expected to do it during class time, but I know me and a few other students in my class, we're still doing it like after school because we don't want to have to worry about not getting it done during class.
Okay, but that's your choice to do that, right? I mean, and you're just
Yes, of course.
new, I think. And I think it's new and you're trying to figure it out. It sounds like you're trying to sort of navigate what the best way to approach it is. And it sounds like you're approaching it in a cautious and a wise way. So kudos to you. That's great. All right. But it's nice to hear that there is some palatable change, and perhaps we need to, and we certainly will continue to monitor that. And please keep us in the loop. And one of the things I tell all of our school leadership team members is you don't have to wait for this meeting to share anything. You can certainly contact any one of us. That goes for parents and teachers or whoever. Contact us with your ideas, things you want to share. We're certainly easily an email away. So great. Teachers, do you have any feedback you want to share? Because I think, what happened, not what happened, but ultimately the plans for the departments are a result of the collaborations of the teachers. And I can assure you that there isn't an administrator saying, you know, well, Mr. Berman said you have to do it this way, so let's do it this way. So please, anybody who, you know, if you want to share some of the things you might have observed or
I can share. So I've been using a lot of Peer Deck, which is like an interactive learning platform for my students, like putting in my lesson through Google Slides and using it as a formative assessment feedback. And I think it has been very effective. I certainly noticed that a lot of my students are much more engaged, and getting feedback from them, they also really like it compared to another platform I've been using. So, and I have asked them about their stress levels lately, and what is like stressing them out, what are they, and they've and I asked them about their, like, how much workload, and if they think whether it's like, you know, if they can handle it. And they've noticed that yes, their homework has decreased dramatically, and that they're actually having a lot more free time at home now, to the point that some of my students are actually saying they're really bored at home because they don't have any more homework. So that's what they've actually said. I'm like, okay, well, you guys have more time to enjoy the day with your family. So I think that's good.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. That's kind of, you know, what the intended outcome was, to really have students focus more and work hard during the day and have an afternoon and a life after school that's different from school. That's kind of like, you know, I think the way it was for us and the way it was not that long ago. You know, there's always a place for work that has to happen after school. Again, whether it's, you know, doing some readings or practicing a little bit. But
you know, Wink has some comments. He's
please.
taking another side to it, which I think, you know, is important to hear too. Wink, do you want to pop on and speak a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm trying to remain as silent as possible, but I couldn't help it on this one.
No, don't remain silent. We like to hear from people.
No, I understand the need to be understanding in this environment and to be compassionate and empathetic. I think all of us understand that and agree with that. My concern is that I think that the public schools in general are taking a path that I don't think in the long term is going to help the children and when they enter more competitive schooling environments. Several of my family members go to poly prep. My daughter went to poly prep for a long time. And I can tell you, and also some people at Xavier, and I can tell you at those schools, they're understanding and compassionate, but they're not cutting the kids any slack. And they're telling the kids, you still have to be prepared for the competitive environment, because once you enter that environment, no one's going to really give a hoot about what's happened in the past. It's either what you can do now, what you're going to do going forward. So I guess I'm just not on page. I'm on the same page with everyone on this aspect of education. I think McAuliffe is this very, very high-end academic institution, and I think we're doing a disservice to kids who have tremendous skills by allowing this. Let's take it easy on them. I just don't think that's going to work long term. Now, how do we resolve that? I think that's something up to the educators. I understand some kids don't have access to computers and systems and networks. That's unfortunate, but it's up to the DOE to figure out how to resolve that. Well, but I think this conversation, though, I think we're headed down this path that I don't think is going to be helpful long term to the children.
You know, if you don't mind me commenting on it.
No, please.
You know, I see your point. I think it's certainly a valid part of the discussion. You know, to an extent, I think part of the focus is on, you know, quality over quantity, and just basically trying to say, hey, we don't want the kids in front of a computer screen for 12 hours. We don't think that's healthy emotionally or perhaps even physically. So there's that. And, you know, maybe we could offer more work to kids that want to do it, you know, in some capacity. But I think for a lot of kids, we've gotten some positive, and from families, positive feedback on being more flexible and, you know, taking the kids' social, emotional health into consideration first. But I do appreciate the comment. It's certainly a valid point.
Mr.
Kelvin, did you want to add?
Sure.
No, I just said never mind.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Mr. File, and I don't disagree with you. I think that's the rub, is finding that balance.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure what the balance is. I mean, I'm not smart enough to figure that out. But we have to find that balance, and at the same time, create a healthy environment for the children, but at the same time not allow them to kind of suffer academically. And that's kind of the rub, I guess. That's
Okay,
where
so
the road.
good point. We have Sandra and Leandra both want to comment on this. Whoever wants to go first is fine.
So I want to add to what Wink is saying. I actually am on the same page as Wink because my oldest son graduated from McAuliffe and is now at Stuyvesant High School. And I have the Stuyvesant High School sophomore and an 8th grader here at McAuliffe. And what that means is at the end of the day, I still work full time. So my meetings are probably 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. So I'm not monitoring my kids, but I do see generally that, especially the work recently, this year here at McAuliffe has gone down substantially. So I agree with Wink in the sense that we don't want to do them a disservice. The reason why I'm bringing up Stuyvesant is a good number of our McAuliffe students will be going to Stuyvesant. Regardless of when the SHSAT is, I know a good number of students here will be going to Stuyvesant. Stuyvesant is has a very stressful environment. My son is up until the wee hours getting things done. He's on calls at like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. with his classmates trying to finish up a project. So I'm not saying overload our kids with an enormous amount of work, but I will say that we don't want them to be shocked when they go into any of these specialized high schools. I don't know about Brooklyn Tech or Bronx Science or the other specialized high schools or SIT. Maybe they don't have as much work. And when they go from McAuliffe to there, and it's like, oh, easy peasy, just like how it was at McAuliffe. But I don't want the kids to be shocked when they go to a school like Stuyvesant, because I know my son, my current 8th grader, actually, when he was in 5th grade, he got 0 homework. When he came over to McAuliffe in the 6th grade, he got shell-shocked. He was shocked because he was like, oh my gosh, I almost didn't know what homework was, and now I'm overloaded with homework, even though there's not a lot at McAuliffe. So that's why perhaps we should figure out if that is the right balance.
Well, so all three.
I'm not saying overload them.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's a balance, like Wink said. All 3 of our student representatives want to comment on this. So whoever wants to go first.
I'd like to go. So I understand what you guys are saying, but I don't think as parents or just as adults, you're not realizing the stress that the homework has on us and the mental toll, because even just waking up and going to school, it's a little bit hard for most of us. And so being on the computer after school for a while, doing a lot of homework, it's just tiring. And I know for me and for my friends, when we get less homework, that makes us want to do better on the homework that we have, because we all care very much about our grades. But if we have so much homework, we're just like, this is all the same. We don't want to keep going and just doing this just so we could have that good grade on our report card.
Mm-hmm. And, I like the whole balance thing that's coming out as well. Marie, and then Kelvin.
I definitely agree with Leandra and also Miss Song. I also, in 5th grade, I got almost no homework. And when I came into McAuliffe in 6th grade, I definitely saw a difference, especially in math and Miss Mac's class. I'm always, math is my favorite subject. I love math. I usually get the best grades in math, and I just love the subject. But then in 6th grade, since I didn't get a lot of homework in 5th grade, I definitely saw a difference. But now, that I'm used to it in 8th grade, I'm back on my grind, But at the same time, I do appreciate the less amount of homework, because I like to go outside, with my friends. I like to go for, bike rides and things like that. And the decreased amount of homework definitely gives me the opportunity to go outside.
Okay. Did we lose you, or were you done with? I think she froze.
Part of this is the like being online, staring at a screen, like that definitely is not very good.
Okay,
I don't know
well
if,
said, Marie.
if Mr. File, if this was mentioned earlier, because I wasn't at the last meeting. When we had spoken to individual classes and the teachers had, and as assistant principals, we had spoken to children individually, the students were having an average of 4 to 6 hours of work per night that they needed to complete, to where we were at a point that we could not get students up to get to class.
Yep.
We were losing more and more children every day of students who are usually extremely high performing, 95, 98, 99 averages, could not and would not get to class. Multiple parents reaching out saying, how can you help my child? So reevaluating how we're communicating the subject to the students is definitely something that we have to continue to address and learn. Remote learning is not ideal in any situation. And I think the teachers as a whole are still learning how to keep the expectations high using what we have for technology and the limitations that we have. However, when we see the amount of students suffering like we were, we have to take action, and we constantly have to reevaluate curriculum to keep the expectation high, but the experience different. We cannot have students staring at a screen for an additional 4 to 6 hours after school. That is something we could not continue to do.
Yeah, I would agree with Mina on that. I also think, this is a work in progress. We adapted to what we heard and what we were seeing, and we'll continue to adjust as we go forward, and maybe even differentiate with kids in a more effective way as we differentiate in non-academic ways. I know Mr. Berman and I think Kelvin wants to speak as well.
Oh, sure. Let's hear from Kelvin first.
I'm okay, so I'm kind of in a sort of gray area on this topic because I understand that you guys want us to not be stressed out, and you also want to prepare us for high school. So I was thinking maybe we should lower the amount of homework currently, and then slowly just kind of move it up to kind of find that balance, because at the start of the school year, right, we just came from summer and everything, and back in summer, unless you had summer school, you didn't really have any academic kind of work to do, and then coming back in, and then you have as Miss Siddiqui said, you had around 4 to 6 hours of homework to do every night, and so it was kind of a shock to your system. So I think that we should probably lower the amount of homework currently, and then just slowly add more homework.
Good. Another great point. And I'm sorry, Mr. Berman, Marie wanted one quick point, and then I guess we'll try to let the kids go first.
Absolutely.
Just one more thing I'd like to add is I was just thinking about it, and one thing I do really miss from regular school are worksheets. And I know that sounds kind of really stupid to you guys because you guys grew up, you came home and you did your homework on worksheets, and teachers had their chalkboards, and they wrote the math on the board and things like that. But online, just typing things out on a Google Doc or something, it's a lot different than doing worksheets history worksheets or ELA, writing paragraphs on a piece of paper. I just really miss that, and now it's all just typing out. So that's just a suggestion to the teachers. Maybe, I understand if kids don't have printers, but if a child does have a printer, I think it'd be really nice to, start handing out worksheets like that.
Wow. And thank you to our new kid members, because you guys are adding so much. I would never have thought of that in a million years.
No, it's
I thought kids
terrific.
hate that stuff.
And I mean, I'd love to just share a couple of my thoughts, and just sort of building on what our students are saying. Really, I understand that need for this sort of physical connection to the world around you, whether it's holding a book or paper or a pen, or going outside and being in the park, or walking your dog, or, you know, things, small things like that that can easily become lost. And I love that you're able to spend time outside with your friends after school. I think that's a really, really important thing. And I think the one of the biggest takeaways we got when we looked at some of the data was that a lot of children were doing very, very poorly in school. And when we looked at why they were doing so poorly, was that they were missing all kinds of homework. And we talked about that at the last SLT meeting, and that, you know, what was happening for a variety of reasons was that kids were getting behind in these homework assignments that were perhaps not being assigned in the most efficient or useful way. And that required us to sort of look at the data, and we couldn't just look at that data that we had. When we looked at the numbers of kids who were failing, who were doing poorly, who were missing large numbers of homework, who were, as Mrs. Zadiki said, not getting up, going to school, and worse, that, you know, I like what you were talking about, Kelvin, and we can even call it Kelvin's moratorium, because we've really considered that, just sort of stop all homework for the month of January, right? And just let's just do a reset, you know. But education is not that kind of a thing. You can't just say no work after school, because there are things that are important that need to be done after school. Whether it's, well, you can certainly think of examples of that, whether it's a reading assignment or preparing something for a class the next day. There are certainly times where you may have to do certain things, but so yeah, and I can appreciate the need that students, you know, are going to have a lot more work when they go to specialized high schools. And that frankly came without saying, because I can tell you, I think by the time our students got to the 8th grade, they really figured out, and I think that was one of the things that I wrote too, that, you know, I give our students a lot of credit. They really figure it out. They figure out how to best use their time to put their best foot forward. And like you heard them say about the time and the effort that they're putting into the work that they are doing in class is really their best efforts. And isn't that what we want? We want their best efforts. Do we want their best efforts 24 hours a day? I don't. I want them to be kids. I really do. I want them to go outside. I want them to have fun. I want them to play sports. I want them to, you know, hang out in the park with their friends. I want them to be away from their parents, where their parents don't know where they are, and they're okay. You know, I want that stuff. That stuff is important. It really, really is.
That means you parents have to take off those tracking devices off the phones. That's what Mr. Berman is saying, right?
You know, trust them. Give them credit. Give them credit. So, and Mr. Mora, I can totally appreciate what you're saying about schools, but the one thing I think that differentiates us when you talk about, and I think you started off perhaps talking about schools in general and maybe drifted a little bit back and forth between 187 and what you're seeing there here and schools in general. But I would say that it's unfair, and I'm not accusing you of doing this, by the way, but I would say it would be unfair of someone to lump us in to sort of a general population of schools and what's going on in most schools. Because I get the sense that most schools aren't getting the amount of live instruction our children are getting. I would imagine that most schools aren't challenging the students the way our kids are being challenged. And I don't mean by being given 4 hours worth of work after school. That's challenging kids, but that's not challenging kids in the right way. That's to me, that's not intelligent.
I think especially in this environment right now, to where we had spoken greatly as a staff about normally after school work would look a certain way that would complement what they were doing in class. And that if we were in a normal environment where the kids were walking up and down the stairs, having lunch, being able to wait outside and talk to their friends, the original grading policy that we talked about would still be intact. And that type of continued work after school and supplemental enrichment would continue. But given the fact of what they're in since March of last year, they are beginning to break down in such tremendous numbers that it is scary. I get emails at midnight from 6th graders saying, please help me, I'm stressed. What can I do? This is something that in the long run, their mental health is far more important right now than anything else, because many of them may not make it out of junior high school if we had continued with the path that we were continuing in.
Well,
I'm hoping,
may I say
I'm
something?
hoping we're going to be back in school soon, really, that schools will be open soon. And then, you know, we're going to be back into a very, very different kind of routine.
Yeah.
And I think,
may I say something?
Link and Marie want to add.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Marie, you go first. Go ahead. I'm a gentleman, so Marie, you go first.
Thanks, Link.
Thank you so much. I just like to add to Miss Siddiqui. She said she's been getting emails from 6th graders at midnight. I know when I was in 6th grade, so this whole Corona thing was not, happening. The latest I would go to sleep is 9 p.m. I usually would go from like 8 o'clock to 8:30. Now I go to sleep a little bit later, because I have to wake up later and, I don't have to commute. But in 6th grade, I would go to sleep the latest 9 p.m. and that was pretty rare to go to sleep at 9 p.m. And to see like 6th graders now at midnight, which I do stay up till midnight sometimes, but not all the time. Like that is, I think that says something. So.
What I was going to say, Mr. Berman and Ms. Siddiqui and Marie, and I guess everyone else on this panel, is that I don't mean to sound insensitive at all. And that's how I came off. My apologies. My apologies.
Not taken that way.
What my concern is that, I've, as a father, as a parent, and a member of a large family, we have experienced it at other schools. And they were all private schools. McAuliffe, I think, frankly, is the best of the lot. So, and I guess I hold McAuliffe to a different standard. Now, I understand that there are children who are having difficulties. That I understand, and I guess I don't know why. I don't know why the parents aren't monitoring it more closely. Maybe they're unable to. Maybe they don't know how. I don't know the answer to that. But my only concern is that, as Sandra brought up several moments ago, is that we don't want the children, at least I don't want my child anyway, specifically, to be shell-shocked when he gets into a competitive high school, whether it be a public school or a private school. And we need to be prepared. And we're all going through hell in this pandemic. But at the same time, we have to strike some sort of balance. And I'm compassionate and empathetic to 6th graders writing at midnight. What am I supposed to do? Well, where's the parent in all of this? I don't know. I mean, I can tell you, my son, his work is done at 6 o'clock in the evening. It's done, and we don't make any accommodations for him. It's got to get done. That's his obligation. And my concern is that we start to kind of lean towards the mean and something less than the mean, and those who are actually accelerating get held back as well. So I'm not sure where the equality is here, and I guess that's my major overriding concern.
Well, it's certainly something that we could discuss. Like, I think everyone would agree we're constantly evolving and always looking to work for every kid as best we can. But
But Mr. File, bear in mind though that the 7th grade, if you look at some of the private schools, they're looking at the 7th grade grades, 6th and 7th grade. The 8th grade grades aren't as significant anymore, aren't going to be as significant as the 6th and 7th grade are. And if we're starting to experiment now we're kind of playing games with the future, with the child's future.
Going back to what Ms. Siddiqui said, though, what we were looking at were actual real kids, real people who were having significant problems at a much higher level and a much higher rate than past years. So, we couldn't turn a blind eye to that. And these were a lot of kids who were thriving in past years, who were falling apart under these circumstances. So I think the responsible thing to do was to make an adjustment, which we did. But I like hearing your voice, and I like thinking, okay, what can we do to meet the needs of kids who maybe are doing well and are bored or want more work or want different challenges? That could be, our next discussion.
Right. And I think one of the things that I would also add that perhaps this is a great opportunity for students to do things that they now have time to do after school, like, for example, join a team or do the kinds of after school activities that don't count for points, quote unquote, on the report card, but are still those important things that differentiate a student from not a high school, never mind high school. What about college? And this is an opportunity for kids to start to get involved. Like, for example, when we had in-person instruction and we had, for example, I don't know, Relay for Life comes to mind, where there was a time when we would have hundreds of kids involved with Relay for Life, spending lots of time after school doing all kinds of activities, raising tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, for the American Cancer Society in our community, and holding a big event and doing all kinds of things. And these are the kinds of things where children learn about making connections with others, how the world operates. When they go and apply for colleges and they say, well, okay, you have to write an essay or talk about things that you've done. What is it that differentiates you from all the other students who have perfect scores? What is it about you? Oh, great, you have perfect scores. So do these other 10,000 applications. We're not interested in your perfect scores. Tell me more about you, right? So, and I hope that, and again, I think at the same time, if we do see, as Mr. File said, opportunities where, and again, this is a continuous evaluation, and these changes come from parents like you, Mr. Mora, and Ms. Song, and if we hear from you, look, there's just not enough going on here. And this is something that we're hearing ringing from the kids, just like what we've been hearing and what we've been talking about. We're going to make those changes too, because ultimately we know what the students generally their goals are, and we know they want to go to specialized high schools. We do know that. I know that we have students who are certainly not going to go to specialized high schools, and these are the students who, of course, we need to cater to them as well. And that's where I think, of course, the challenge of balance and all that stuff about what we do comes in. But trust us, we've been doing this for a long time, and we've been working with students of all different types and kinds, and there's a reason why, I have to say, there's a reason why our staff is as good as they are.
Yeah, Mr. Berman, there's Kathleen and Marie wanted to add, and then probably we'll move to the next agenda item. So Kathleen?
Marie's ahead of me. Why don't you go first, Marie?
Oh, okay.
Thank you. I'd just like to add something to what Mr. Berman was saying. There are a lot of things that you can learn outside of school. And I'm not saying that like the things you learn inside of school, like algebra and history and all that, are not important, but there are things that like having less homework can allow you to learn outside of school. So I'm talking about like Jeopardy questions, things like that. I watch Jeopardy every night, and a lot of those questions that I know, I didn't learn from school. I learned from just like reading random articles online after school, or like reading random books and things like that. And also what he was saying about colleges. Colleges don't just look at like GPA and things like that. You could have all the best grades and someone with like maybe a little bit worse grades than you, but a lot more activities and things like that, they'll get into Harvard or whichever, Ivy League school. So
I'm going to tell my daughter that too. I got to get her doing some of these. So good. Excellent comment. Great job today, Marie. Kathleen?
Excellent comment, and excellent comments from all our students.
Yeah, fantastic.
Really valuable contributions and wonderful to hear. So thank you all for being here. I just wanted to add a line that I read, or a statement that I read a few months ago that said, our children aren't falling behind, they're surviving a pandemic. And just to remind, and this is what the students are saying, and what Mr. File, Ms. Siddiqui, Mr. Berman have been saying, going back to the minutes that Ms. Wong reviewed from the December meeting and talking about the Title I funding, that's for students who come from very low income families, which is a high percentage of students at McAuliffe. Different communities are being hit very differently by this pandemic. People have lost jobs, family members suffering from illnesses, hospital stays, and so forth. So there's so many things that are going on outside of school in our students' lives that can affect how they're learning. So I just really appreciate the way that the teachers and administration are taking all students' needs into account and taking into account all of those challenges, while also trying to figure out ways to keep students engaged and on track. And I think you've done a great job of that. So just wanted to add that there.
Thank you very much. Okay. Great discussion, and a lot for us to think about. So the next thing, speaking of lighthearted topics, is the SHSAT and where it's going, and I guess some of the, when we're going to have it.
Well, I have.
We're going to administer it. We don't even know.
I have a little bit of an update, but you probably know that all. You probably know it already, but the SHSAT update is that it is apparently going to be scheduled at our school for our students on January 27th. Mark that date. Plan to come to IS 187 on January 27th if you're going to take the SHSAT. If you know people who are not in New York, tell them if they want to go to a specialized high school, they need to be in New York because you'll take the specialized high school exam. You have to register for the specialized high school exam by Friday if you haven't done so already. And I know that means you have to fill out your application with all of your choices on it. But, tick-tock, folks. Not that many people signed up. We only saw maybe like 40 students signed up, and we're checking to see if that's like a problem. Like, why are there only 40 students signed up? They should all be signed up. But I'm thinking it's because maybe parents don't understand what they need to do. I don't know. But there is going to be a meeting tomorrow night for 8th grade families. We sent that out today. So if please share it, let parents know. Students, make sure you have whatever confirmation you get from when you sign up, I don't know. They haven't shared any of that information really with us. There's training on Friday that our staff is going to, that our test coordinators are going to. So we'll learn more about all of that, and what the administration will be like and how it's all going to be arranged. But, so that's what I know about the SHSAT.
Sandra's got some questions, Mr. Berman.
Shoot.
So on the form that we filled out when we registered, they
Yeah.
asked about, are you okay to do Saturday, Sunday? Are you okay to do Chinese New Year's weekend day? So my question is, you said it's on January 27th and only on January 27th, because that's a weekday. So will it be morning and afternoon? And then, so I guess it's part of the.
January 27th.
Okay.
I imagine 8 a.m. That's
Got it.
probably, you know, fair start time, 8:30, 8, you know, something like that.
Okay, if it's only 40 students, it's doable.
No, it's not going to be 40. It's going to be it's going to be pretty much the whole 8th grade.
Okay.
If it's 40 students, we're in trouble.
Yeah. I imagine it'll be more like 300 students. And that's a logistical issue for us as well, but we'll figure it out.
Mr. Berman?
Yes, sir.
Are they asking you to have a plan in place how to socially distance with 300 kids? Or is it possible that some of our kids will be sent somewhere else?
If we have enough people, we can do it in our school.
Okay.
But that requires everybody who's home to come back.
And they have medical accommodations, so.
No, not those people.
Everyone else?
Everyone else.
Got it. Okay.
Everyone else. And it requires like all of them, like if like 3 of them don't come, like it's a problem. Like we don't have enough proctors. It's like that close. So we're going to find out. Perhaps they'll send us more people to proctor. Don't know. I would imagine most schools aren't going to have as many students taking the exam. So rather than send our students elsewhere, let them send us proctors. That would seem to be what I foresee as our biggest problem, is me requesting more proctors and having them get them. But that's on them.
Okay. Any other questions, or should we move to the next agenda item?
I had a quick question.
Sure.
And it may be that this can't be answered till after the meeting you said you have later this week, Mr. Berman, but is it going to be subject to the same requirements that in-school learning had? Like only a certain number of kids can be in a room, there has to be ventilation, they're going to be wearing masks, no water, whatever during the test. Will all those requirements and safety precautions still be in place?
I don't know about the no water, but yes to everything else.
Okay. And when McAuliffe was still, I know it's been a while, but when students were still coming in, I guess that was back in November,
Yes.
were you leaving the windows open?
Yes.
And so they'll be taking the SHSAT in January with windows open?
Yes.
I imagine they would be. And I can also tell you that just yesterday, or was it yesterday? Yeah, I believe it was yesterday. The school received 19 dehumidifier things for the classrooms. Purifiers? Is that what he said? I thought he said
Okay, Marie, thank you for your contributions. You were great. I'll see you next
cleaning
month.
contraption for each classroom.
Bye.
A dehumidifier, purifier, air thing. Bye. Thank you. So yeah, and the policy is to have the windows open, yes.
Okay, so they might need to be wearing winter coats while they're taking this test, which just sounds insane to me, but yeah, that's what it'll be.
Probably.
Okay.
Crazy days, crazy days.
Yes.
So
I like wool. Wool is really good.
Layers.
Wool. Yes.
So next on the list was the COVID vaccine. I could just tell you that it's open to teachers and people over 65, I heard, as of now. And, you know, the way the UFT is doing it is teachers are going, the first people are going are the ones who are in the classroom, but it is possible to just sign up directly through the city as well. So that's pretty much all I know about it. Hopefully everyone will be vaccinated by May or June. Do you guys have anything else on that? Anyone?
I can tell you I've received no further information that I shared a couple of days ago about vaccinations. I know there is mandatory testing for students and staff. No exemptions. No.
I think it just got lowered to 65, Steve.
Okay.
I did want to add that I heard today of a new location that if anyone is still looking, teachers, I guess, because at Maimonides Hospital this week, I think 7:30 to 6:30 p.m. No appointments necessary, because I know a lot of people have been having issues finding appointments. But they say that each day new providers, offer, appointments. So, but that is one of the new ones that I heard of this week.
Great.
For all teachers and, individuals over 75.
Cool, thanks.
Winnie, they just opened that up. I just made an appointment for tomorrow, has appointments at Maimonides all day. So you only tomorrow, Wednesdays have appointments. So you can make one.
Oh, they are doing appointments.
Just
Okay,
for
'cause
Wednesdays.
I have a
That's their
family
schedule.
member. Oh, just for Wednesday.
I think the
Okay.
other
I was
days are
planning to go
walk up, but
tomorrow.
Wednesdays are appointments, something like that.
Is the walk-up situation going to be 5-hour lines though? What are you thinking?
I mean,
would
and they
guess.
just opened today. They just started today. So as of right now, I guess because people don't really know about it yet, it was not busy. Hearing from the nurse there. So, but I guess as it's going out, it might start get like towards the end of the week, maybe it might start getting more crowded if they're not taking appointments and they're just kind of doing walk-in.
Now that you put it out there,
So
Winnie,
far today, yeah. I know I need to. The news. 'Cause I know a lot of people were stressing trying to find a location that was close enough to them.
Right.
So,
Or a location anywhere.
Yeah, I can't find one.
right.
Yeah.
I can't get an appointment.
Okay. So I don't know what else we can add to that, but whatever, if you guys find some places that you think are really good and you could get in pretty easily, everyone, some of the people are struggling to find locations. All right. Next on the agenda is the incident at Capitol Hill last week. I discussed with Mr. Berman, and, I guess we weren't exactly on the same page on it in terms of communicating to the entire school community, or to do it within individual classrooms. I thought that it was something we should be saying something to on a larger level, similar to what we did with the George Floyd case. But, Mr. Berman and I and Ms. Siddiqui certainly wanted everyone's input here from some parents on how you think we could get that across. I mean, the way I see it is that we certainly hope that this generation of kids does a hell of a lot better than our generation is doing in terms of this country and what's going on. So, any thoughts on something that we can do?
Well, sorry.
Anybody, it's open to everyone, always.
Okay. Well, I think it would be good, to talk to, the students, because I know for people in my class and people that I know, we've wanted to talk about it with our teachers and stuff, but they feel like they can't exactly talk about it with us because they don't want to talk about it and then say the wrong thing or something. So I think it would be good, to either, teachers actually talking about it with us, or like you said, you guys going into classrooms and stuff.
I missed your class just by chance.
I know.
Went
Ms.
almost
Sika kept
every
telling
day
us.
class, so I apologize.
But yeah, I just think that would be a good idea, since us as students, we want to be able to talk about it because, we have opinions on stuff like this too.
Yes, certainly.
So what do you think about it?
I think the whole situation is kind of just disgusting because Trump kind of incited the whole thing from his rally to, he told them to go walk there. And also I think something else that's just like so terrible about it is how when the Black Lives Matter protests were happening, there was a whole military team there, while here there was a lot of cops that were going with them that were saying, come on, let's go, which I just think that's so like crazy, and it just shows you the difference in how people are treated in our country.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing, I think, is the really important piece that I'm very happy to hear, and you know, Mr. File mentioned that we differed. I would say a little bit, and I think I'll tell you where I think we differed. But I'll also tell you where I think we're on the same page, and that is, I think that, you know, our social studies classrooms are places where this is an event and a time in history that requires, I think, a deep and thorough analysis and conversation. I think it requires a thorough understanding of processing information and how to draw conclusions. I think it's ultimately incredibly relevant. I think where we differ is what really anybody thinks what I have to say about it really matters, or anybody cares what I have to say about it, or whether it's appropriate or not for our school to get involved in a political arena. And I think the social studies classroom is the place where I think, was it Kelvin, you were talking about really wanting to have that conversation. And I would hope that your teachers are not afraid at all to have that conversation. And in fact, that was a discussion or part of a discussion at our faculty conference the other day, was that our social studies teachers should certainly be using this as not just a teachable moment, but, you know, again, a point in history that that they should certainly be involving their classes with.
Well,
so I think that's kind of where we differ, and I'm glad I'm glad Kelvin and Leandra, I think I said it right that time, but I'm glad to hear your feedback on that, and anyone else for that matter.
No, Miss Molin, who's one of our 8th grade social studies teachers, during the meeting, I had to mute myself because she called me a few times, and I thought it was very important to pick it up. And she said she wanted to tell me that some of the students mentioned to her today that this isn't, they felt that this wasn't choosing politics, that this is living history.
Mm-hmm.
And that they felt it was so important to talk about because this is not a Republican Democratic issue. This is a democracy issue. And at no time has a president been not only possibly impeached twice, but the 25th Amendment possibly on the table. So they felt that it was such a moment in history that they were living, and they were very, very eager to talk about it.
Yeah, and I certainly, Kelvin, just give me 1 second and you could go. Certainly going into the classes, I got really good responses from the kids. And, you know, to be frank, you know, and I told them the same thing, it's a challenging thing to discuss with a class because you always want to remain as objective as possible and let people speak freely. These are, like, you know, very good skills as a social studies teacher, but you also don't want to, you know, soft pedal the indefensible. And there's a lot of that going on in the country right now. And it is very challenging. It's very challenging to come at it up the middle. I do not agree with Mr. Berman that this is politics. I think it's gone well beyond. I could imagine 10 years ago,
I think,
or 8 years ago, having a conversation where someone was saying the court system doesn't work. We are a third world country, telling lies repeatedly, and then leading a riot into the Capitol would be considered a political thing. We're in different times, and look, it is very challenging to approach a class with it.
Mr. File, there's no question that the destruction and rioting and damage and hurt and pain and injury and death that was brought is horrible and horrendous. There's no question about that. And that's not, it's not even a matter for discussion. And I think all of the ancillary things that you're talking about that led up to that, that are part of what's going on, are absolutely critical to have an understanding of. And I think I think it's an interesting event, educationally in a lot of ways, because I think it shines a light on how poorly I think people understand and people have been taught about our political system. I mean, never mind the interest in it. And I mean, you know, I mean, listen, we all bear some of that brunt to blame. I mean, listen, I understand there was one of our classes. How many students knew what had happened the day after? 1, 2?
They knew, but they didn't pay attention to it.
It's not on their radar, right? And I mean, most people don't even know what the 3 branches of government are.
In many cases, it's normalized.
And I think it's so important in all of these respects. And I think in an understanding of, you know, what protest is, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, and absolutely understanding what the penalties for inappropriate behavior are, and understanding that our country is a country of laws. There's no question about that, right? But absolutely, this is absolutely the discussion that should be going on in our classrooms, and I hope that children are evaluating. I hope they are. They should be.
Okay.
And if they're not, we need to fix that. Right? And it's not just a one, you know, I don't think it's just a one-shot discussion. I think there are connections to, listen, I was a social studies teacher for a long time. I know that one of the most effective ways to teach social studies is to connect the past and the present. And this is a phenomenal way to do that. And to not take advantage of that, I mean, I can't imagine any of our teachers would not take advantage of that. But we'll make sure they do.
Right. So the question was, is there any way we could communicate something about this event to the entire school community, similar to the way we did with George Floyd case?
What do you want to say?
I was putting it out to them, to people. I don't think it's easy to handle. You know, I think perhaps some people felt on safer ground because you had a clear villain in the person that murdered George Floyd. So this, like Steve just said, it must be said unbiased. A little bit of a different challenge.
It is a different challenge, and it's very hard to be unbiased, and that's why politics and schools are not on the same, don't happen in the same space, right? That's why there isn't electioneering at school. That's why politicians can't just come to a school and show up. Hey, how's it going? There's a separation there. And you're absolutely right, Mr. File. It becomes very difficult to keep this separated.
I'd be very, very interested to see how this is taught 20 years from now. I'm going to come back to a high school or a middle school on the day they teach this 20 years from now.
You don't think you're still going to be teaching 20 years from now, Mr. File?
No, I'll come and visit and I'll find out how unbiased they are.
Don't disappoint the children. Well, perhaps Kelvin and Leandra will be teaching themselves in some school somewhere.
You're right. They'll be teaching, and you guys will handle it as you see fit.
You'll remember this conversation. You know, I remember that conversation about, what was that thing? Oh, the Capitol, right.
Mr. File, I'll invite you to my classroom in 20 years to talk about it.
Awesome. Hey, what about me?
I'll still be here.
That's right, Winnie.
You
You're
too,
like
Mr.
12.
Berman.
If I'm alive, I'll be there.
I'll be on a beach somewhere, retired, many years.
You can zoom in.
Me
too. Your beach house.
We'll probably have holographs by then, right? We can.
So we're I guess we're getting toward the end of the meeting. We have an NIA update, John, a PTO update, and a budget update. We'll try to keep everything brief so everyone can enjoy the rest of their afternoon.
Shoot.
John?
All right, how are we doing? So we have the same stuff going since beforehand, with the addition of links is really getting going now. I have from Mr. Kaplan, we just have to confirm and we'll send it out to the whole school. He's thinking of next week, possibly the 19th and 20th, having technically live performances, even though they have edited the videos. And then after that, it'll be available to the whole school. So as soon as we confirm that, that'll go out to everyone. We are wrapping up the first round for the 8th graders of test prep, because we're hopefully giving the exam, as we were saying, by the end of the month. And then look out after that, probably February or March, we're going to start up for 7th graders going forward. We're looking into the feasibility, like last year, where we actually ran those Kaplan programs, which do cost a lot of money. So we're just finding out about that. And then students would have the access for the next year to all their online stuff. And that's it for now. I'd say for us, we might have some of those supply pickups that we were doing, we might have to do by the end of the month or February for all the art classes and different things that we were running. So look out for that, parents.
Thank you.
All right, no problem.
Okay, Vito, would you like to speak of the PTA?
We don't have much of an update at all. We have our meeting on the 19th. We're still working on the agenda. I'm excited that Mrs. D is going to talk to us. I'd like to get an email out to everybody, and I'll post it on WeChat and our Facebook, because it's concerning me as much as Mr. Berman that we only have 40 people signing up for the SHSAT. So we're looking into 8th grade. The PTO is ready to support the 8th grade kids as any way we can. We have some good news in that the vendor from Ford Amphitheater contacted us and said that they are beginning explorations about possibly being allowed to do something in June. So we gave him a tentative date, and no promises for anybody, but if that were to happen, that would be phenomenal, right? I'm not saying that it will. I'm not even that hopeful, but even just the idea of being able to do that and support the 8th grade with something would be great. Picture Day is coming, I think, where Kim Gillet, our fundraising coordinator, is working with Mr. Berman and Dan from Class Act, and we're going to figure something out. And going forward, what do we have? Fundraising. We received a wonderful donation from a parent of $1,000. And I don't know if the parent wants me to name her, so I won't. But not only did we get $1,000 from her, but she took the time to work with her company for a corporate match. So between the $1,000 that she gave and the $1,000 from her company is the single largest donation that we ever received. I was very excited. I'd love to give her a standing ovation, but I don't want to invade her privacy. But so I was very excited about that.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was really good, right? And I just hope we have something to spend it on.
And
great.
I want to have something to spend it on.
Will be put to great use.
Yeah, right? I mean, it was nice. It was nice. It was heartening. I guess I would be remiss.
Maybe we can have our leadership team kids help spend it.
Yes. I have a lot of ideas. My house, I need a lot of things.
Yeah.
Oh.
But we do need, we're going to need a recording secretary, and we're going to need a treasurer for next year. So it's time to really put the screws to people and ask them to step up, because the year is winding down, and we really do need to have someone. It'd be great to have someone who's interested, that we kind of show them the ropes. And I guess I would be remiss if I didn't circle back briefly to the incident in Washington. CEC is tomorrow night, and there is a resolution on the table that is very controversial, that does not have 100% support. It's posted on the website. I'm not going to go into the details here. I don't think it was an appropriate resolution, or the way that it was written is certainly not written in the spirit that Mr. Berman spoke about. So I'm very, I don't even know the word. I'm just a little bit saddened that it's up there. I thought that it was, the way that was written was horrible, and it doesn't do anything to help us go move forward. It just demonizes people. Instead of demonizing the hundreds of people that did bad things, it demonizes, I think, a larger portion of people. And I don't, District 15 superintendent came out with a very great statement. I posted on my personal Facebook that says, basically, you know what, extremists are the problem, and we need to understand that most people just want to be heard. They want to live their lives, and they want peace. That's what most people want. And the extremists on whatever end of whatever it is you're talking about, those are the individuals that are causing most of the problems in this country. And I echo that. And I don't know what I'm going to say tomorrow night. I don't practice an atheist, but I hope I say something that's a little bit wiser than the resolution, but we'll see.
Well, I'd be happy to go check it out and see if I agree with you or not. Steve, did you want to speak? And then Leandra, and then Mr. Berman with the budget finale?
No, I'm good. I've been typing little messages and sending it out there. I'm sure everybody can read it. So,
oh, I'm sorry. I took you literally when you said you want the freedom to speak uncensored.
Oh, no, I'm talking about in reference to what Vito was saying. That's all.
Most certainly. Big believer in it as well. Leandra, you want to talk about Class 800?
Yeah, Mr. Chachi wanted me to make sure that I mentioned this. But basically today during our AH Class 800 meeting, an idea was brought up that maybe with the Pupil Path emails that are sent out to the students and the parents, if like once a month or, you know, once every few weeks, we could have like a survey or maybe do like a little meeting with the 8th grade students or any of the students to like check up on them and make sure that they're doing okay, so that, you know, we can know how to go forward with some things and just make sure that the students are good.
So yeah, it sounds like a really interesting idea. We should meet with Mr. Chechi, and in fact, I'll make sure that we do that. If not, well, we could certainly do that this week.
And I think what we have left is the budget,
Let's
and
do
then
that for sure, okay?
we'll have a good afternoon.
Yes.
What's that?
Does that work, Leandra?
Yeah.
All right, great. We'll do that with Mr. Chechi. And yeah, definitely. I have our budget here. In fact, I'm happy to share my screen with you. Let me see. You should be able to see it in a moment. Should say My Galaxy, something to that effect. Oh. And I'll bring up this screen over here. My computer is not being particularly responsive, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able. Oh, there it goes. Now it just jumped. Okay. I'm not sure if you can see that whole page. I might have made it too large. There we go. Well, so all of these items here, all of these lines represent almost like different accounts where we received money from. We receive money from different places. You can imagine our school had a birthday and all the different relatives gave us gifts, and we put them each in different categories, right? So we got gifts from our uncle. We got a nice gift from our rich aunt. You know, we didn't get too much from our stingy parents, whatever. But so that's what all of these different lines are, and allocated is what we got. Scheduled is what we basically put in a spreadsheet so that we can spend it. and remaining is how much is left floating around that we didn't plan anything for. And you can see there's lots of zeros there. There's a couple of small amounts that we're currently working on and moving around. So the big snapshot of our budget really is how much money do we have to spend, right? Everyone is, everyone is, well, I shouldn't say that. Almost everyone has been paid for. All of our staff members are here, and their salaries are taken out of that huge, ultimately big pot of money that we looked at. And I won't go into all of the detail with that here, but you saw the screen before. The point of looking at that was to sort of show you we got X, whatever X dollars were, and we scheduled them here on this screen. So you could see where those dollars are now and where they represented, right? So where did those dollars go? So for example, Nancy McCarthy is occupational therapist, and there's her salary right there, $78,000. And allocation is where it came from. Remember all those lines? Which crazy uncle gave us the money for that, right? Which relative did that come from? That's basically what that category is, right? So this is sort of where everything is. It's set up into groups by teachers, guidance, things like that. At the top was the administration. Here's our school-based team. Our school psychologist is here. Here are our paraprofessionals and the funds that we pay for our paraprofessionals. So this is kind of how, we manage our checkbook. We have X number of dollars that we get, and we spend it over the course of the year. Now, where that money comes from is for, I guess, maybe our next conversation about our budget. And I can talk about how we generate that money, because I think it's very important to understand how we generate money, because the impact of how we generate money is unfortunately why we did have, by the way, I'll just show you this here. This is, these are people, these are the paras that I showed you. These are school aides here and their salaries. Per diem is when teachers are absent, or we have teachers covering for other teachers who are on leave or on maternity or things like that. So per diem means per day. So that's money that we pay for a daily sub to come in. Per session, that's like a smaller chunk of time, right? That's like per hour, right? A session is like an hour, basically. So when teachers work after school or before school, things like that, when they work beyond their regular time, we don't have a lot of expenses in per session. This year, we had a lot over the summer with planning, and that's where a lot of this money went, this 36,000, another 24,000, in coming up with our particular program. And I think you'll agree it was money well spent. They did a great job, didn't they? OTPS is other than personnel services. That's a fancy way of saying stuff. So this is money we spend on stuff, whatever that stuff might be. It might be tickets to a show. It might be a computer. It might be an assembly, so it might not necessarily be something that you could touch, but yeah, I guess you could touch an assembly, but not the people who are performing. Don't touch them. Let's see. So if you look, there's $321,000 right here in this curriculum and staff development, which is just a way of saying this is a placeholder for money that we have left this year. And as we've talked about, one of the things that we talked about spending with some of this money that we have left is upgrading the air conditioning in the auditorium and the cafeteria, because it's quite sweltering and unhealthy down there. And we have this extra money here this year in order to do that. Now, unfortunately, that number used to be about $122,000 more. It was about 400 and something, about $450,000. And if you'll go back and recall from the minutes or our last meeting, that was around the number that we had talked about that we had to spend, about $450,000, which is a nice chunk of change. Unfortunately, what happened was we didn't get as many special education students as they funded us for. In fact, I'll show you. If we look here, this is where the money came from. This number right here, it's in red right now, specialized programs, ACEs, that was $122,000 higher. That was what they originally gave us. But those kids didn't come. They never sent them. They're not here. They don't exist. So they gave us money for kids that aren't here. So because they gave us money for kids who aren't here, we had to take that $122,000 and put it right there in our mid-year repayment set aside. See, they have a special name for that. We don't like it. But it's sitting there, and they will probably come at the end of the month and take it away from us because those children aren't here, so we weren't entitled to get that money for those services. So I do think that $30,000 there, I do think I think that's set aside. I think we'll get that back. That was from the initial register gain set aside. But that's what that set aside business is all about. And that's why we no longer have $450,000. We have this because, and you might wonder, well, why didn't we plan for that? Right? Well, we know how many kids we have. Why did we just plan for that? In years past, they funded us for those empty seats. They funded us for the empty seats because they realized if you have a class with 8 kids in it, right, and it's a 12-to-1 class, a special education class, a 12-to-1 or a 12-to-1-to-1 class, if you have 8 kids in it, that's not enough money to pay for the teacher. That's how they figure out how much money per kid it is. They take basically they take your average teacher salary, which is here. You can see, and our average teacher salary is very high, which is a really good thing, right? What do you think let's see, boys and girls, if you've been paying attention. What do you think it means if our average teacher's salary is very high? Anybody, jump right in. It's like Jeopardy. What is?
Kelvin typed in the chat. He said you get funded a lot.
But why?
Kelvin, use your mic.
Why is our average teacher salary so high? Why do we require more money for our teachers?
They're good. They have seniority.
Those are two different things, Mr.
Labella. Okay. But I'm being nice.
And it happens to be, it's true for both of us.
Yes, thank you.
It's true for our teachers. It's not true all the time, though. But without knowing the teachers, you do know something about you do know something about them, right? They've been working for a long time. They're senior staff. Their salaries are much higher. So
get that, Mrs. Lochisano, senior staff.
Any chance she gets.
And I tell you what, she's loving every minute of it. And can't wait
Don't forget who's older, Amina.
I know.
Anyway, so to circle, so that's kind of where we are with our budget. I will tell you that I'm not worried because there's still some money here that we've got scheduled. There's still there's $133,000 here that we had set aside for substitutes. We'll need some of that, perhaps not all of it. So to circle back to what we talked about with the original money, extra money that we had for air conditioning of the auditorium and the cafeteria, I spoke with the plant manager actually yesterday and today, and this afternoon got an email from the plant manager who's going to order the survey of both the cafeteria and the auditorium this week. And within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we should get the report, which will include how much it's going to cost to do that. And so then if it's something that ultimately we can afford to do and we want to do, my guess is there's no way we're going to be able to afford to do both of those places. We're going to have to pick one. So, hey, boys and girls, guess what? Remember how I told you like what we did was like real, right? So we're going to have to decide perhaps which area we're going to air condition. And part of the fun is deciding how we're going to decide that, right? If we have to make that choice. So let's put our thinking caps on because we are going to have some work to do. Because we're certainly not going to be able to afford both of them. And the reason why I say that because the plant manager mentioned that PS 187, no, 185, I think, who he said had a similar auditorium to ours, got, I think, $800,000 to upgrade the air conditioning for something for their auditorium. So he didn't think we were going to be able to do that, but perhaps we could do something with our cafeteria because we already have a lot of stuff going on in there anyway. So we shall see. That's pretty much what I wanted to share budget-wise. Think about if there are things that, and I tell the teachers all the time, and our APs and staff, there are things that we need. We can get them. We've invested in some new software for the teachers, full licenses for our school, for all of the teachers. I do expect some new curriculum coming in, actually, that we've looked at that actually we had an opportunity that we seized upon. We kind of spent all of our NISTL money. NISTL money is, I'm not sure if I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but NISTL money is money that we got from the state, and we spent it. And some of it's for textbooks and things like that. And then they came out and they said, well, we have this curriculum, this digital curriculum, and if you want it, you know, you can use your NISTL money for it. But if you already spent your NISTL money on it, we'll get it for you. So I said, oh, great, let's get it. It's not going to cost us anything. So we got it. And we're getting some of it is one of the programs is called Readtopia. Our special ed department wanted that, and they're really looking forward to getting that for our ACES students and some of our self-contained classes. And there's a science program called SAVAS or SAVAS. Not really sure how to pronounce that. I think it's SAAVAS that the teachers looked at and evaluated and thought was pretty good. And so I think there are facets of that. I know Mrs. Siddiqui looked at some facets of the ELA and social studies programs, and they're already online. I think we use some of those materials already, and may, you know, look at some of those other things that are now available to us that weren't available before. So we'll take a look at some of those things. And the Go Math, we actually bought the Go Math earlier because we needed it right away. We needed the materials. So we got the Go Math. We could have gotten the Go Math for free, but we had all of the other curriculum materials in place. We have Discovery Ed for science and social studies. We have our ELA curriculum and all of the other pieces in place already. So these were just additional resources that we thought would be great to take advantage of, especially since we already spent the NISTL money. So
Mr. Berman?
We doubled our parlay, let's call it. Yes, Mr. Labella.
Madeline had a great question. The RESO money, did you get contacted by your rep about, do you have any,
Yes, I'm happy to update you on that. Mrs. Zadiki, you want to talk about that? Because she's been a real driving force behind this particular project.
Yeah, we're actually are thinking of restructuring and changing our guidance suite to be more SEL friendly with a calming room. So it would completely be gutted. We're researching different ways and that the guidance suite could be more effective and more pleasing and more relaxing when the students go in there for either individual or group counseling, and a place where when students do need to refresh themselves, that they would have a sensory room that would be able to go into and use and utilize when they need to during lunch or if they're having a period then. So we've been doing some research on what would be the best way to effectively restructure that room to use so that it's just more kid friendly. Right now it's 3 offices and it's not a very appealing place.
It's 1950s style guidance suite.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So we were contacted. I did. Mina's team put together a little description of basically what she just talked about, and we did send that off. And we are working on the actual document online that we'll submit to the capital planning committee. Just so everyone understands, these funds generally come from our elected officials, like, for example, our city council men and women, like our borough president. Our particular borough president has been extremely generous, and hopefully this could be his last hurrah project for Christa McAuliffe. You know, that's Eric Adams. He helped us out with, not helped us out, but he funded our coffee shop, our hydroponics lab, and several computer carts. Just his contributions go into the millions for our school. So we're really grateful for that. So yeah, what happens every year is the CEC has to pick, I think, 5 or 7 projects from across the district that they would like to prioritize. Doesn't mean they're going to get done. None of this stuff means it's going to get done. And as we know, sometimes you get the money and it still never gets done. Unless, of course, you're me and our team, because we're relentless. But other than that, oh, the tech lab, that was the other thing. Oh, and the art studio, that's all Eric Adams. All of those spaces that we have. He's been the borough president for a long time. And like I said, he's been quite generous for us, to us. But yeah, so what else can I share with you? Oh, and our hydroponics lab is just about completed. There was a huge delay because of COVID and all of the millwork, which I understand now is a fancy way of saying cabinets, right? All the millwork was held up, and because the cabinet factories were closed. So, but that's all been installed and stuff. So that would be looking forward to that. I believe I pretty much got everything that was on my notes to share anyway, without actually going to the principal's report. There was one other thing. No, that was it. And I know Mr. Labella didn't put the tentative date out there. Was that intentional because we haven't confirmed that, or
What?
The date that we sent you?
For the graduation?
Yes.
So it was June 18th, and we
June 18th,
sent it.
excellent. Now the cat's out of the bag.
Well,
Write
I mean,
that
you know,
down.
I
June
sent
18th.
that. We sent that to Newman, and we didn't hear back. When I hear, you'll
Oh,
hear.
we didn't hear back. Okay, so all right, so let's follow up with him. Perhaps tomorrow. Maybe if you want, I can shoot out an
Any of
email.
us can. I mean, you know, he just asked for dates. We should be number 2. We have a 3-year contract with them, and we have the second spot. So unless Diker picked that day, you know, we should be good, right? We got to ask Diker what day they picked.
Maybe we should let sleeping fly. I don't know.
I'm interested in how they can do it. I mean, I would love it if they could do it, even if they just said no or 1 guest per kid, right? And use that big big auditorium to spread them out as much as we can with 1 guest per kid.
I'm sure they could do 2 on the same day, even if one was like all morning. Let's say you went from 8 till 12, and then another one could be from 4 till 8 or whatever, however long it took.
Well, that's doubling the cost for them, you know, right? That's the security, and that's this that made up the price. You know, I don't know. That's something we can negotiate.
You mean how more?
Well, if it's yeah,
I mean, no. What do you think they're only doing 1 event per day?
Well, that's the thing. They were scheduling 3 events per day, right?
Oh,
now, if
so
you're
then
saying you want them to do,
we're number 2. So okay, so then never mind what I said. If they schedule 3 events per day, let's even say that now because of COVID they've got to only schedule 2, right? We're still going to get that date, right? If we're one of the 2.
you froze, Mr.
Oh, let me know when I'm back. Am I back?
No, you're good. I think he froze. I think Mr. Labella froze.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Right. I was going to say that we should do, but all right. So that's the date that we requested. We haven't heard back yet, and hopefully we'll get that date. That's I think one of the last Fridays in June. And it seemed to be a perfect date because in the slight chance they do give any Regents exams, they already scheduled that as a no Regents day. So there's no possible way the math Regents could be on that day. Bye, Leandra. Thank you so much. Have a great day. All right, I guess I'm gonna sort of wrap up, and that's pretty much. Oh, I knew there was something. It's the first thing on my notes. The Title I funding. We didn't get it. We didn't make it. We were close. Maybe next year, but we're around where we are every year, around 57%, 58%. We're short, but we're close. We do have a lot of families who qualify for free lunch, but not enough to qualify as a Title I school. I would say we were short by about 25 people, families. That's how close we were. But we tried really hard. We really did. Mrs. Siddiqui and her team and Aparu and everything was, we were all over it, but there are so few people outstanding. We just don't make it. Okay. So that was unfortunately to end on kind of a bummer, but it's not a bummer. Don't worry. We're going to be great. It's still great. Everything's awesome. And we're going to keep doing great stuff.